Um, so, how you doing?
I'm doing well. How are you?
Doing well? I'm good. I'm good.
Good.
I'm just here to interview about some upstander questions that you've done in your community, and I just want to know who influenced you to become an Ethiopian American social entrepreneur.
Um, I think it's a combination of people. I think for me, one of the key players is my mother. But in addition to that, it's just sort of the community I grew up in. The people that were around me, they were all pretty civically minded. Even in school, the teachers I had, they were all people that challenged us to think outside of the box, to believe that there was no box. And I really do think that, especially in elementary school, they really did shape a lot of my thoughts. And so I'd say between my mother and then my teachers. Yeah.
And your teachers. So would you say Ringe had a big
Oh
influence on
yeah,
you?
yeah, definitely.
Definitely.
Rinch did. Yeah.
Another question I have is, what are your goals in the what are the goals in your organization that your organization faces?
So I wear many different hats, but the one of the big hats that I wear is an organization that I founded back in 2006 called the Ethiopian Global Initiative, and the initiative works in Ethiopia in four areas of health, education, civic engagement, and economic development. So with health, one of the bigger things that we've been working on is raising funds to educate midwives in Ethiopia. So promoting maternal health care is a big passion of mine. Now we're diving into mental health and substance abuse this year, so that's a new area for me, and we'll see how that goes. In education, we have a program that sends American college students actually to Ethiopia on summer internships, and they're there for about 2.5 months. Not only are they interning and gaining professional experience, but also they're partnered with local university students, and throughout the summer, actually, they're mentoring local high school students. And so what we're doing here is facilitating a cultural and educational exchange for these students. And we've had that now for 2 years. It's been very successful, so we're looking to continue expanding it and growing it. And that also goes down with civic engagement, because one of the things that we do with the students in Ethiopia is we promote volunteerism and community service with the high school students in particular that we're working with in Ethiopia. And that's very crucial, because I think even here in America, so many times we wait for other people to solve our problems. We shift responsibility on other people, and forget that we have a role in our own community. And so what we're essentially sharing with these young people in the country is, you don't need to wait for someone to tell you. You can take action or make a difference in your community, no matter how big or small it may be. And so in sharing that throughout the summer, the American college students that are there are also transferring skills like how to search on Google, how to use the internet, how to speak publicly, and so all that stuff is very important. Things that a lot of us are taught here in the U.S. at an early age, but not so readily available in a country like Ethiopia. So sharing that is important. Yeah.
So, do you say like this program is to help people get aware of Ethiopia, a connection between the Ethiopian community here and with Ethiopia?
So with this particular program, well, it's open to all college students, no matter background, and we send those to Ethiopia. I mean, they apply obviously, and whatnot, but the idea is to give them some sort of awareness of the country, while also gaining professional experience and working with students in the country. Yeah.
What values are important to
A lot. I think a few that.
you? Or like, what are the most like the things that you really like?
I think the first one, foremost, for me is faith. And I have a lot of friends. This being Cambridge, of course, not everyone is religious, not everyone's spiritual. But I think everyone, whether they want to call it faith or morality, has some sort of standard that they abide by, some sort of moral compass that guides their direction. And for me, I think what really guides me, what energizes me, is faith. Also, I think the other thing is just commitment to public service. I think, it's for me, giving back and working with other people, working in my community, and doing things for the community's benefit. That stuff is fun for me. It's what wakes me up in the morning. So I think that really does get me by.
Um, did you ever feel discriminated in any type of way, and how did you overcome?
Yeah, even here in Cambridge, we think Cambridge is perfect. It's a liberal bubble, and in some respects it is. But at the same time, you get discriminated for various reasons. I mean, sometimes you walk into a store and the clerk just sort of becomes a little bit more aware about you being there. I don't know if it's age discrimination just because youth are rowdy or whatever, or if it's racial. But I've experienced that sort of stuff. Not too much within the high school, but sort of outside within the community, and then certain other places that I've traveled, I've experienced that. But overcoming it for me, I don't let it faze me. Part of it is because growing up here in Cambridge and going to a school like Ringe, you're surrounded by so much diversity. You learn how to deal with different people from different backgrounds. You learn how to deal with immigrants. You learn how to deal with people that were born in the U.S. You learn how to deal with people that don't speak English. And so it doesn't really faze me so much, but I do notice it, yeah.
Would you say that like that discrimination influenced you more, or like encouraged like encouraged you to do something about it?
Yeah, I'll actually give you two examples. Not that directly impacted me, but that directly impacted Ringe. So, trying to remember the year. I think it was in 2008. This group known as the Westboro Baptist Church, which is very. They're not even just anti-gay; they're anti-everything really. They don't really like anyone, and they're a very strong hate group. They decided to protest here at Ringe, and Westboro Baptist Church protested at Ringe because of the gay-straight alliance that this school has, Project 10 East. And Project 10 East is the first gay-straight alliance on the East Coast of the U.S. for high schools. And on top of that, obviously Cambridge is the first city that allowed gays to marry. And so they came here protesting, and I remember a few weeks before they came, I don't even know how I remember seeing it, but I remember seeing something that said that they were coming. And so I didn't know who these people were, and I didn't know what they were about. I went through their website, I went through their events page where it said that they were coming to protest, and I worked with the mayor's office, the principal's office here at Ringe, and then Project 10 East, and then a bunch of other students, and we organized a very big counter-protest. So while they were outside, there's probably maybe 15 of them. I think there were at least 200 to 300 of us outside just the whole day, sort of on the other side of the street, just picketing, and that was fun. I think there were a lot of emotions early that day. Obviously, they had a lot of very hateful signs, and you could tell that there were a lot of students at Ringe that were emotionally hurt by their message. So it was good that our school came together as one community, gay and straight and whatever else in between, to really sort of support each other, to show unity. And I thought that was cool. I thought it was fun, being able to be an ally to that cause. The other interesting experience was in 2009 and 2010. Cambridge Public Schools District became one of the very only, it's a handful of school districts in the United States that recognizes a Muslim holiday. And that was the result of a very strong, committed group of students and faculty and then members of the school committee that really pioneered it. And I was really honored to be part of that team that made it happen. It became a holiday, it became official after the fact that we had graduated at the time, so a lot of us that fought for it were not here to realize it. But me as a Christian, I get Christmas off, I get Good Friday off, which is great. And my Jewish friends get holidays off too, depending on whatever calendar date it is, Rosh Hashanah or Yom Kippur. So we said to ourselves, well, it sort of makes sense. I mean, there's a very sizable Muslim population in Cambridge. Why not give them a holiday? And it was great to know that Muslim and Arab students were really leading the pack, and then everybody else like me was really part of that team pushing forward. So, these are two cases where I think Cambridge really shined well, how we came together as a school community. Both of these cases were student-led, student-driven, and we were the ones that designed what ended up happening. So I think that was exciting.
Very exciting. Are these your first encounters with like creating organizations and like actually upstanding in your community? Or is that the first example of?
They're among the first. First time was in 8th grade, but yeah, so from 8th grade and then on to high school as well. I mean, I think what's exciting about Ringe is because there are so many different people here at this school, there are always chances and opportunities for leadership, for upstanding. You don't need to be a bystander. In fact, you shouldn't. And these are just two cases where we came together as upstanders and fought for our Muslim friends and then fought for our gay friends. But there are so many other examples where we as a community really showed our support for each other for different causes, multiculturalism, whatever. And I think what's exciting about having been here at Ringe was just that there were so many like-minded people. So if you wanted to do something, it wasn't hard to find people that were equally as crazy about it as you were.
I'd like to advance to the second, but the fifth question. What advice could you give kids my age that are serious about issues like this?
How old are you?
I'm 17.
What grade?
But I'm going to get senior.
What learning community?
Huh?
What learning community?
What learning community?
CRLS?
Oh no,
Which house?
Prospector Academy.
Oh, Prospect. Okay, you don't go here. Okay, all right. I think the biggest advice is, it may sound cliche, but it's something I learned in a ethics and moral leadership class I took in college. There's a difference between, and this is particularly important, going into senior year, applying to schools, SATs, all that stuff. There's a difference between working towards your passion and working towards a resume. Now let me explain that. So when a lot of people end up retiring, they end up facing some sort of dilemma, because they just don't know what to do afterwards. It's sort of, you've lived your life trying to build up a resume, focusing on your career, just climbing up a ladder, and not really doing what wakes you up in the morning, sort of doing what everyone else tells you to do. You're a doctor because your parents told you to be a doctor. You're a teacher because your parents told you. You're whatever because other people told you to. You went to college because you were told to go. And that's one way of living life. The other way of living life, which I choose to do, is following your passion. Doing what wakes you up in the morning, utilizing your talents, utilizing your skills. Because when you're doing what you love and when you're doing it every day, there's no such thing as retiring, and there's no such thing as being sick of your job or whatever, because it's what you love to do. And so when you retire, you're merely turning a page, right? So think about politicians, for instance, right? A lot of them will have climbed up the ladder in politics. They'll probably start off as a mayor or a governor, and then they'll become a senator, and then from there some of them will end up being president. But then even after retirement, they're still sort of engaged in public life. You know, they don't completely disappear from the world. A lot of them start foundations, a lot of them start teaching, a lot of them still do public service, right? And I think that's because they're following their passion. It's because they're doing what they like to do best, which is public service. And whatever it may be, whether it's, you know, becoming a doctor or whatever, I think if you follow your passion, if you identify that one thing that really excites you, if you do it really well, there's nothing better that you could do for yourself, I think. And that very well may be, you know, going to college, going to a graduate school, and then, you know, taking on the advanced job, but it may not be that, you know, maybe being a photographer or being a videographer or a musician or an athlete or whatever. So I would say, you know, follow your passion, and if the passion is community service or anything else, do it well. You know, build connections, build inroads, make friends in those areas, and don't stop. Yeah, I think that's the biggest advice, because that's what's helped me the most, I think.
How was it like being Muslim and Ethiopian living here?
I'm not Muslim. I'm Christian. Yeah. Being Ethiopian,
Yeah. How was it living in?
I mean, as you may know or have observed, there are a lot of Ethiopians in Cambridge. In fact, actually, the largest immigrant group in Cambridge are Haitians. The second largest are Ethiopians. And a lot of them are concentrated in North Cambridge, but then also a lot in the Area 4 neighborhood. And for me, you know, it was always funny because in high school, oftentimes, you know, I'd see a lot of Ethiopians wherever I went. Within the community, you know, just spending a day in Harvard Square, you run into so many Ethiopians. You know, the interesting thing about Cambridge is about 35% of the city's population was not born in America. So there's a pretty, you know, diverse grouping of people in Cambridge. At this high school alone, when I graduated, 45 languages were spoken. So, I mean, that's a pretty broad range there. I mean, you know, you're going through different hallways, you're hearing different languages, things that you've never heard before. And so, I think my point is, you know, for me, it was never like, oh, you know, I'm Ethiopian and not whatever, you know, because I came to America when I was 3. So, you know, I grew up in an Ethiopian house with Ethiopian tradition, language, whatever. But at the same time, you know, grew up completely American too. So I sort of, you know, have the best of both worlds. And for me, I like it because you can sort of switch from different cultures. You know, you can switch from different languages, and I think that's cool. Yeah.
What influenced you to start Ethiopian Global Initiative?
So actually, it was in 8th grade. I was watching, it was one day in December 2004, I was watching this really interesting interview of an Australian doctor who lives and works in Ethiopia. She was on the Oprah show, and Catherine Hamlin is her name. Catherine and her late husband, Reginald Hamlin, were both doctors, and they moved to Ethiopia in 1959, so over 50 years ago. And as obstetricians, their calling obviously is maternal health. And they entered a country that had no resources for pregnant women. So good luck, essentially. I mean, you know, there was nothing to support childbirth. You know, obviously they had traditional midwives, but they didn't have a modern form of medicine like much of Europe and North America did. So Catherine and Reginald started teaching midwifery at a local hospital. They were only supposed to be in Ethiopia for 5 years. That was sort of their term of duty, and they were going to leave. But then they learned about a very devastating childbirth injury. For the sake of it, we won't get into too much here, but it's called fistula, F-I-S-T-U-L-A. And it's a childbirth injury that affects women in a lot of developing countries. You know, the fetus ends up dying. It happens during obstructed childbirth, so as a woman is trying to deliver. And when they learned about the extent of this issue in Ethiopia, they were like, well, we can't leave, you know, we want to solve this issue. And the last obstetric fistula case in the US was in 1886, to give you an example. In the UK, it was in 1920, so, you know, here it's sort of unheard of, because if you are a pregnant woman and you're having any issues, you can have an emergency C-section. I mean, we have ambulances, we have helicopters that can take you. I mean, like, so here there's enough medical resources out there that as a woman, you don't need to suffer through an obstructed childbirth. You actually have options. But in a country like Ethiopia, that's not the case. And so what they ended up doing was they refined the surgery that repairs this issue, and they opened up a hospital in 1974. And they're still there today. Reginald died in 1993, but he's buried in Ethiopia. What's interesting about that is they say home is where you want to be buried, right? And so he's buried there. She's 89, alive and kicking, and still operates this hospital. And because of her work, hundreds of new maternal health professionals have been trained in Ethiopia. Doctors, nurses, midwives. She now has a network of 6 hospitals. She has a long-term care facility and a college. And the college grants a 4-year degree in midwifery, and that's the college that my initiative supports. And so when I learned about this in 8th grade, I was just like, well, gee, this is a woman that has no obligation to Ethiopia. I mean, she's Australian. She could have left Ethiopia after 5 years. There was a major revolution in 1974. She could have left then, she stayed. There was another major revolution in 1991. She could have left, but she stayed. So, this woman has gone through so much crap, essentially, in Ethiopia, but her commitment to public service, her commitment to medicine, her commitment to women is so powerful. And, that inspired me, because I was just like, well, I'm young, I don't have many resources, I don't have any experience, but I'm going to do something to support this woman's work, because since 1974, her hospital has provided every patient with free care. And they've never turned down a woman either. But they only do that through donations, right? And so I was like, okay, let me round up 13 of the closest people that I know in the community. They were all around my age, so the youngest was in 6th grade, the oldest was in 12th grade here at Ringe. And we were like, okay, let's raise money for Dr. Hamlin's hospital. And within less than a year, we supported 11 women. Which was great because we were all very young. We didn't know what we were doing, but we had a passion and we did it. And we learned along the way. I mean, our first event wasn't so successful, but another event that we had, we raised almost $4,000 in one night. So we were like, okay, well, this is great. And we were selling T-shirts. We were doing a lot of other fun things to raise the money to support women. And that was an exciting experience. It really was, because again, going back to my previous point on sticking to your passion, we had people, I wouldn't say, well, yeah, I mean, maybe you could call it age discrimination. We had some people that were like, well, you guys are kids, like, what are you doing? Like, just go play in the park, or, be rowdy, be rebellious people. And we were like, no, we want to do something, cool. We want to raise money for a charitable cause. And so, we had some stares when we were asking people for donations. They were just like, well, and how old are you again? And so some people were freaked out by that, but it was fun because we were able to do something for a good cause. We were able to upstand for less fortunate women who go through childbirth injuries. And at the same time, we followed our passion. So, yeah. That was sort of the key sort of spark, Catherine and her work. It just inspired me because I was like, this woman has no obligation to the country, but she's doing all this cool work. Why can't we do the same for our own country, right? So.
Did you ever meet Catherine?
Yeah, I did. Yeah. So we raised the money and did all our work in 2005, and then in 2006, I actually was able to visit Ethiopia, and I toured the hospital, met her, we had tea together, and that was really fun.
Did you talk about all the money that you guys raised?
Yeah, we did everything. I mean, she knew ahead of time because we had notified the hospital that we wanted to do this, and they were pretty excited about us, and it was great to actually physically meet Catherine and to meet a hero essentially. And so it it was an exciting experience, especially going through the hospital and meeting the patients. That was really life changing. Obviously, because of medical privacy issues, we don't know who the 11 women are, and we won't ask to know either. I mean, that's fine. But I was able to meet different patients. I don't know if they were the ones that we supported or not. And it was great to just hear their experiences, to hear how they were healing, to hear how they were growing, and to see so much hope in that hospital. I liked it. I loved it a lot. It was great.
Another amazing experience.
Yeah, it was.
How, what made you decide to get involved in the Cambridge community so much?
I still try to figure out the answer to that question. It's so when I was a kid, I was very talkative, right? But I was also very, some people may call it bossy, some people may call it, sort of dominant. I like to call it executive, having executive leadership tendencies. Don't let anyone ever call you bossy. I was just, I think for me, when I was younger, I wanted to be a police officer until I found out that police officers died. I was watching the news one day and I saw an incident report of a police officer that got shot and killed, and I was like, well, okay, I'm not going to be a police officer then. That's too dangerous. And then I wanted to be a pilot after that. And if you met me sort of in the middle school years, I knew everything about airplanes. I mean, everything, head to toe. And then when I started this charitable stuff, that's sort of when my attention shifted from being a pilot to humanitarian issues, and then from there, a lot of what's attached to humanitarian issues is politics, right? And so I started, learning a little bit about politics, policy making, that sort of stuff, the law, and it was very interesting. It was fascinating for me. I mean, I would find myself spending hours of time that I should have been doing homework, just Googling different, political things. And it was great because I was learning a lot, right? And from there, sort of this interest in leadership sort of took in from there, well, what are some issues in the Cambridge community? What are some things that are around me and also in Ethiopia that I could impact? What also did help was in the year 2007, I was asked by a person that was running for re-election in the Cambridge City Council to volunteer on her campaign. And that was sort of my first election experience. And that was really fun. I mean, we didn't do anything major. We were doing lit drops, so we were dropping literature in front of everyone's home in a particular neighborhood of Cambridge. In this case, we were like in the Porter Square neighborhood, just going to every house and just dropping these leaflets. And we were holding these signs, in the corners as you see people doing for election. And that was sort of that first experience. I think it was fun because I was interested. I didn't really. I wasn't overly excited about it, but I was interested. Well, what is all this election business about? It was great that we had donuts and free coffee, so that was fun. And after that, I was just like, well, the elections are fun. And so I started getting more involved in those things. By that time, I was also here at Ringe. So anything, when it came to like planning assemblies and things like that, I was always on the team that planned assemblies. We planned, we planned the Muslim Students Assembly, the Latino Heritage Month Assembly, the Black History Month Assembly, and all those other assemblies for 2-3 years in a row that we did that. And it was really exciting. I learned a lot through that. I worked on 3 other campaigns after that too. So I think the biggest thing was just someone asked me to work on a campaign, and I was just like, let me give it a try. And what was exciting was it was a mix of people opening doors for me, as well as my own curiosity. So it's what I was telling you earlier. You have to go out and make those connections, but also make friends in those areas that can open those doors for you.
What's like the future for for the Ethiopian Global Initiative? What do you want to accomplish now that you're here? Now that you're where you're at with your...
It's funny that you asked that because we're right now we're in the process. In fact, on Sunday we have an all-day retreat. We're in the process of writing out our strategic plan. Sort of what's that vision where we see ourselves in 5-10 years from now. What I can tell you is very soon. So last year we secured an office in Ethiopia, which is really exciting. By next year, the plan is to hire a few people to staff that office. So, we're going to have a small team in the country that works full time on this sort of stuff that we're working on. And I very well may see myself moving to the country very soon. So, what we're going to do is really expand on our work that we're working on right now, make a bigger footprint in the country. A lot of the big events that we host are in the U.S., but in the next few years, the plan is to shift and host those events in Ethiopia. So working more with students in the country, working more with entrepreneurs, and working more with sort of these young visionaries, young leaders that are very dynamic and very straightforward. So the plan in the next few years is to sort of shift in that direction. But that's all I can say for now.
Yeah. Well, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you. It was a pleasure.